This is a continuation of the first video. This video is of the Cat 70 scraper hydraulic control conversion. From the first video, we discussed some of the things about the scraper and places you'll need to make changes to it to make it into hydraulic control. I'll show you where I'm at now in the update of the progress and how I did it, and explain some things along the way. As you see here in the front, here's a picture before I started cutting the pulleys off, cable sheaves off there, and here it is now with the cable sheaves removed. Now we just need to grind these down, make it look a little better. Here's the front tube. As you noticed, I've got everything removed. It's all opened up in this picture. Ready to start over rebuilding it. As I mentioned in the first video, there is a floating cable sheave. This raises and lowers your door. In this picture here, this is looking from the right side of the scraper, and I have restrung a new cable. I have added a sheave lock. There'll be two of these on the scraper you no longer need that can be used, moved to the front and reused. So your floating sheave is going to get reversed. So the cables are now your pulleys are open from the right side, where originally it was from the left side. And then on the back side, where the cable here that the mouse is on used to hook to a clevis mount, which hooked to the sheave. Now the cable goes through the sheave, floating sheave, back around into a lock, and the hydraulic cylinder hooks to this sheave where this cable originally would have. I'll try to get some additional pictures so I can better explain that. So what we've done, we've ran a longer cable through the sheave into this lock, and the reason we did that was to shorten the stroke needed of the cylinder, and that cylinder is going to lay in this tube. It's going to have stationary mounts on the left side, and then it will pull this floating sheave back and forth, which will pull the cable back and forth, raising and lowering the door. But as I mentioned, the reason we did this is to shorten the stroke of your cylinder. What would take a almost 6-foot stroke to pull all the way to the left side to fully raise the door will now only take a 40-inch stroke cylinder. Here's an additional picture of it. And you'll see right where the mouse is at is where a pin's at. And that's where the end of the cylinder will mount, then the other end will mount down here on the left side. The cylinder I ended up using for this particular scraper is a 3.5-inch bore, 40-inch stroke. The rear of the scraper, we've cut and removed the rear sheaves, opening up the rear end, getting ready to install the hydraulic cylinders, cylinder mounts. In this picture here you can see where the ejector mounted, and now I'm getting ready to install my mounts here. Show you in this picture. Okay, there's where I mounted the plate up, and I'm making this is where the cylinder is going to attach. Made a couple smaller plates. These are just kind of reinforcing, and obviously got the cylinder pinholes. You could probably build this a little different. The reason I chose the way I built this is it attaches to the bottom piece and this upper piece, and kind of ties them both together as the scraper was factory. I always grind my weld or my paint and everything off, rust off, makes it weld better. Up here you can see where we've stolen that sheave, that lock, that cable lock for that floating sheave. And in this picture here, I've just welded this plate on the big plate, and 2 smaller plates are just getting tacked up. In this picture, you can see I've welded it up. Then I went back in and actually cut this all to match the original shape, the cat shape, rounded these edges, rounded the tops, just to give it some characteristic look, make it look a little nicer, dress it up. And I'll go back in and grind all this down, smooth it up, make it look nice and pretty. And then here in this picture, you can see I've got my pins made and the cylinder mounted, or partially mounted, I should say. That's a 4-inch bore cylinder, and how you'll need to determine your length of your stroke will be measured between this sheave in the frame here. There was a stationary sheave and the back sheave on the ejector that moved ahead, moved towards this sheave. And this particular one came out to a 43 3/4 inch stroke, which I could only find a 42-inch cylinder, so an inch and 1/4 is not going to make a lot of difference. 1 inch difference in stroke. I mean, that's very close. When you're talking moving almost 4 feet, 1 inch will not matter. This sheave between the frame here, I got all the bolts out of it. They're actually bolted in the bolts from the outside thread into it. I remove them with an impact, and then we'll just shove it forward to the cylinder, and that sheave will just fall out on the ground. I'm currently working on the mounts for the rear of the cylinder now. I'll have additional video of the floating sheave and that cylinder mounts next, as I'm getting those pieces for it. And today the UPS just dropped off the cylinders for the main bowl lift, so I'll show you how I'm going to mount those and continue our video series of how to convert a Cat 70 scraper.